The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, launched IT hubs in Azerbaijan and Georgia, where the bank would support the training of 280 students from their future employment with international ICT companies. The non-governmental organization GRAS published an interim report on the fulfillment of the 12 conditions set by the European Union for Georgia. As of report, fulfillment of most of the conditions are still pending. Irakli Kovzanadze, chairman of the Finance and Budget Committee of the Parliament, met with Pavel Herchinsky, ambassador of the European Union to Georgia. The importance and prospects of further expansion of trade and economic relations and investment opportunities between Georgia and the European Union were emphasized at the meeting. I think that 2023 will be a year of further growth for the economy of Georgia, said the chairman of the committee. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kvanchilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to update you with the news and analysis on business and economics issues. We will start with Davos, where the annual World Economic Forum is taking place. Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili delivered a speech at the forum. Our reporter Georgi Aronia pulled together all the important news for Georgia coming from the forum.
Last week, the World Economic Forum was held in the Swiss municipality of Davos. Led by the Prime Minister, the Georgian delegation consisted of Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development Levan Davitashvili, Foreign Minister Ilia Darchiashvili, Head of the Government Administration Revaz Javelidze, and the Prime Minister's Special Advisor for Foreign Investments Vasil Hudak. During the delegation's visit to Davos, the head of government held high-level bilateral meetings with global leaders and the executives of large international companies. Let's recap some of them. Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia, met Jay Collins, Vice Chairman of Citigroup, within the scope of his visit to Davos. Parties reviewed specific directions of cooperation towards banking and financial intermediation. During the visit to Davos, Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili met with Alexander Vučić, President of the Republic of Serbia. Two leaders discussed the key directions of cooperation between Georgia and the Republic of Serbia and prospects of deeper cooperation. The conversation touched on European integration matters, and the regional and global security environment were also discussed. Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili met with Alain Berset, President of the Swiss Confederation. During the meeting, the leaders discussed the close cooperation and friendly relations between the two countries in both bilateral and multilateral formats, as well as the importance of Switzerland's long-term contribution to the development of various directions under Georgia's ambitious reform agenda. As a part of the delegation's visit to Davos, Irakli Garibashvili met Gautam Adani, founder and chairman of the Adani Group. Discussion was focused on the prospects of future cooperation. Gautam Adani expressed interest in the energy and transport logistics opportunities offered by the country, while the Prime Minister elaborated on the great potential and resources available in the country towards this end. According to the Forbes real-time billionaire list, Gautam Adani is the third richest person in the world. As a part of his visit to Davos, Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili participated in a panel discussion on Eurasia Middle Corridor, from pathway to highway. Together with the Prime Minister, the panelists included President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, Commissioner for Budget and Administration, Johannes Hahn, and Chairperson of the Board at Limak Holding, Ebru Ozdemir. The panel was moderated by Mirek Dušek, Managing Director at the World Economic Forum, Geneva. Among the topics discussed by the panelists were infrastructure and management of the Middle Corridor, as well as its significance to the world. Let's recap the main points discussed at the panel.
Right now we are investing heavily in infrastructure. First of all, I want to mention that we are building highways, which will be completed by the end of 2024. We're spending like $2 or $3 billion to complete this highway. And of course, this will facilitate this transportation. Second, I also want to mention the ports. The ports capacity of Black Sea, of Georgia, is quite big, but I think we need to increase it. Therefore, I want to mention about one particular project, which is Anaklia Deep Sea Port. We have decided that the government of Georgia will start construction of this port. 51% of this port will be of this consortium that we want to build, will be owned by Georgia, by the government of Georgia, and of course for the rest, 49%, we want to announce an international tender. And we are talking with many potential investors for this. Together with Azerbaijan, we are developing different initiatives. For example, I want to mention Black Sea submarine cable, electric cable, which is also very interesting. This we are doing together with Azerbaijan, with Romania, with Hungary, and this initiative is backed by the European Union. And in fact, we were in Bucharest in December, where we signed a memorandum. All 4 countries will invest into this ambitious project, but this is very interesting.
We invested largely into transportation infrastructure in the previous years. And actually, all the necessary infrastructure facilities in Azerbaijan are ready to receive more cargoes. Our seaport, which has a capacity of 15 million tons, will be expanded, and already there's a budget allocated for that, up to 25 million tons, because we expect a growing number of cargoes for particular reasons which you mentioned, the difficulties of transportation through traditional northern route.
Would you mind between Azerbaijan and Georgia, if there is any kind of cargo, how does it go? How is the transborder transportation?
So first
we can imagine
yes,
it looks like now.
First of all, highways, which I mentioned, and railway. Right now, the capacity of railway of Georgia is 25 million tons. Right now, we are implementing the modernization of railway. This will be completed by 2024, by the end of 2024, and the capacity will be about 48 million tons. Besides that, together with Azerbaijan, we are now building a Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railroad. In fact, several months ago, Azerbaijan provided additional funds to complete this project. So this project will also be ready by 2024. This is another 5 million tons of cargo.
Nice.
So these are very strategically important projects. I also want to mention the relationship between Azerbaijan and Georgia. This relationship is tested, reliable, trusted. We have implemented together very important historical projects, such as the oil and gas pipelines. So now this railway project and many others which will come in the future.
I think that we now need to have more closer cooperation between all the countries involved, Central Asia and the Caucasus and Europe, in order to work actively on customs administration, to have more or less a single window approach, and on tariff policy, because we need to make this route not only attractive from point of view of absence of other routes, but attractive from a commercial point of view. We need to create, and I again want to agree with Madame Ebru, that there should be a kind of a steering committee or kind of a management board of all countries involved, Central Asia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, European partners, including all the transportation infrastructure.
At one point, this whole corridor will be operated, and there should be a governing or an operational body, maybe like a company or so, which should be definitely private sector influence as well. And the other important thing would be, of course, the tax and the customs. Still, I feel like, working in 14 different countries, I feel like the customs is the least developed in the world. So this system definitely should become more viable, more faster. And the other thing probably would be the currency. Being in World Economic Forum, we are new, modern. Maybe blockchain could be one way to manage this. And we should definitely not be afraid of new and modern ideas. But I think this collaboration, Mr. President, our country's President and Prime Minister, will be able to manage this corridor as fast as possible. And I think we need this alternative route in today's globally complex environment.
We also had a working, let's say, meeting in Kazakhstan at the ministerial level, and where we signed the roadmap, so-called roadmap, how to develop, how to facilitate, right? How to lift the barriers. And I think we will agree on further steps and move forward. The plan is that we want to, the initial roadmap that we already agreed on is 2022, 2027. So in this time frame, we should prepare the corridor.
By the way, when we started our meeting, I noticed that we sit the same way how our pipeline goes.
But I'm from Czech Republic.
Pipeline starts in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, Europe.
We are working on a reverse flow.
Great.
I'd like to close the session with Mr. Prime Minister, also on this. So if you could give me your perspective on how we can get to long-lasting peace in South Caucasus,
Sure.
but also if you could, because I know you've been, of course, on the ambition regarding NATO and the EU, so kind of the geopolitical outlook also for your country.
Well, first of all, regarding the relationship between Azerbaijan and Armenia, Georgia is truly a neutral, unbiased, objective mediator. What President Aliyev mentioned, this is truly our interest to organize such a meeting, trilateral meeting, because this region belongs to us. It belongs to Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia, and we can transform this region into a region of opportunities, peace, stability, and prosperity. And I also want to mention one thing. During the Soviet time and Cold War, there was a famous saying, trust but verify. In Davos, I heard an interesting formula. Distrust but cooperate. I believe in cooperation.
I haven't heard it.
Distrust but cooperate.
What was important in Georgia's economy this week? Our reporter Natia Taktakishvili pulled together this week's economic news and outlook.
Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili released a statement regarding the prices of medicines. Early last year, we opened the Turkish pharmaceutical market. After the changes, the price of medicines in the country decreased by 60-80%. As a result of the opening of Turkish pharmaceutical market, the Georgian population will save over $200 million annually. In order to further increase access to medicines for the population, we have launched a new reform aimed at setting the maximum price limit for medicines. In the first stage, the reference prices was set for more than 1,300 chronic and oncological medicines. From February 15, pharmaceutical companies will no longer be able to sell drugs at a higher price than the specified price. As a result of the reform, the cost of medicines will decrease by 40% on average. The reference price will be gradually determined for other medicines as well, said Garibashvili. Zurab Azarashvili, the Minister of Health, declares that an artificial shortage of medicines can be created, otherwise the ministry will respond accordingly. We set two types of prices. One is set separately for regional manufacturers, another one for generic drugs. Under the conditions of these two prices, the business has an interest in continuing the operation because exactly the same producers operate successfully in different countries. Therefore, there is no danger of a shortage of drugs, and if there is a deliberate attempt at sabotage, we have a corresponding plan for this as well, the minister said. According to Azarashvili, the sabotage attempts took place at the initial stage when the government started medicine imports from Turkey and the business did not import the appropriate amount of medicines. After the bad experience we had with Turkish Medicines will set up a mechanism together with the competition agency, and it will be very sad if we need it, but we will use it in the case of necessity, Azarashvili said. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili, accompanied by a delegation, participated in the annual World Economic Forum in Davos. According to the press service of government administration, within the scope of the visit, the head of government held high-level bilateral meetings both with global leaders and the executives of large international companies. The Prime Minister delivered speeches at the panel discussions. Led by the Prime Minister, the Georgian delegation consisted of Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development Levan Davitashvili, Foreign Minister Ilya Darchiashvili, Head of the Government Administration Revash Javelidze, and the Prime Minister's Special Advisor for Foreign Investments Vasil Hudak. Traumatologist Vaja Gaprindashvili says that the new model of financing with DRG does not allow for providing quality services in the traumatology. According to him, Medical Hub Georgia refused the Universal Healthcare Program and accordingly the new financing model. The idea itself is very good, but it was done without refinement, so it will work with difficulty in today's situation. In my opinion, initially the system should have been implemented in state clinics. For example, in the case of various infractions, sometimes implants are necessary. These tools are imported and of different quality. Until November, everyone tried as much as possible to use quality means which have the appropriate recognition in the European countries, Gaprindashvili says. DRG strategy was mandated in hospitals from November 1. According to Georgian Health Ministry, the new approach is banning clinics from charging additional out-of-pocket expenses for medical services other than those specified. The co-financing share by the state from 0 to 30% will be envisaged as per the health insurance package. Tbilisi Mayor Kakhaladze says nothing wrong if Russia decides to restore direct flights to Georgia. The mayor echoes the Russian foreign minister's statement in which Sergei Lavrov expresses hope that Russia will soon resume direct air traffic with Georgia. As Kakhaladze pointed out, Russia unilaterally limited the flights to Georgia. There is nothing wrong if this decision is made. On the contrary, it may benefit our country because up to 1 million of our compatriots live in Russia and direct flights will make it easier for them to travel, he stated. Tbilisi Mayor Kakhaladze says on Wednesday at the meeting of the capital's government that he would have strict reaction to the corruption. He called on employees of Tbilisi City Hall and its structures not to allow corruption facts in their sectors. I want to warn everyone, starting with my deputies, heads of services, heads of legal entities under private law, non-commercial legal entities and limited liabilities companies. We will be very critical and will do everything to prevent corruption. This is a very serious issue which will always be followed by an appropriate response. It was like that years ago, it will be like that now and in the future. We will do our best not to allow corruption and to eradicate it. I have said it many times and I will repeat it. If any of our employees need support, help, I'm ready to personally listen, assist, but my reaction to corruption facts will be very strict. I warn you all the communities with your employees in your own offices and make everyone understand this attitude well. If someone needs something, support, cooperation, we are ready to help in every way, but corruption facts will have a very strict response, Galadze said.
The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, is supporting the development of greener public transport in Georgia. A sovereign loan of up to 50.6 million euros will finance the rehabilitation and upgrade of up to 12 metro stations in Tbilisi. The financial package includes an investment grant of up to 5 million euro from the Green Climate Fund. With a population of 1.2 million, Tbilisi was one of the first cities to join the EBRD's flagship Green Cities program, which supports members in addressing their environmental challenges through sustainable investments and policy measures. The city was also one of the first to develop a Green City Action Plan. Tbilisi has already made significant progress thanks to its efforts, according to EBRD, including the bus fleet renewal and network restructuring. The new loan builds on this broader effort, part of which seeks to encourage people to shift from private to public transport. The city's transport system is set to benefit from the improved reliability, efficiency, and climate resilience of its metro stations. Better lighting and ventilation and greater energy efficiency of escalators will improve the daily commute of Tbilisians, while an overhaul of the drainage systems is set to make the network more climate resilient. Infrastructural improvements, coupled with a new asset management plan to be financed as part of the project, are set to boost the Tbilisi Transport Company's non-fare revenues while improving service by reducing the overall downtime required for critical maintenance. The EBRD has invested 5 billion euro in Georgia to date through 283 projects, with more than 80% of those in the private sector. The bank's key areas of investments in the country include the financial sector, sustainable infrastructure, manufacturing and services, and small and medium-sized enterprises. The EBRD is a multilateral bank that promotes the development of the private sector and entrepreneurial initiative in 36 economies across 3 continents. The bank is owned by 71 countries, as well as the EU and EIB. EBRD investments are aimed at making the economies in its regions competitive, inclusive, well-governed, green, resilient, and integrated. Mark Baumann, Vice President for Policy and Partnerships at the EBRD, visited BMG for a sit-down interview with Georgi Sakadze, which focused on this important decision and also some other broader development issues.
Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for your time and for being with us, for visiting us, and thank you that you find time during quite tough schedule you have in Georgia.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me on your program. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Mr. Baum, first time, by the way, when we hosted Madam President, when I was here in our office, the first question was similar to you about the purpose of this visit. We are in charge about quite high-level meetings with governmental officials and with private sector. Could you be more specific about the purpose of your visit?
Well, the purpose of my visit here to Georgia is to come here to meet with the government, to understand the current economic situation, the current challenges that the government is facing, and to discuss our cooperation and how we can continue with our cooperation and continue to deepen our cooperation.
At the same time, you're covering regional countries. I mean, you're visiting also Azerbaijan, Armenia, together with Georgia.
So this week, visiting 3 countries in the region, a real opportunity to visit all 3 countries, and countries that have all been long-standing partners of the bank, and with exactly the same purpose, to understand the current situation, the current challenges, the current economic challenges, and to see how we can continue and deepen our cooperation.
Besides some official meetings, which we are already aware of, I mean, about the signing memorandum in regards of Tbilisi subway modernization, Tbilisi metro modernization, which is a very important loan for us, about 50.6 million euros, as far as I'm aware. Could you be more specific about other details of your meetings with governmental officials? And then I will move to the private sector, where you have a lot of partners. And
well, let me do that, and let me first say a word about the Tbilisi Metro Modernisation Project, which we signed today. We're very pleased to sign that project, a 50 million loan to help with the rehabilitation, the repair rehabilitation of 12 metro stations here in Tbilisi. As I'm sure you know, Tbilisi was the first city to join our Green Cities program. And our Green Cities program is a flagship program where we work with city authorities to help them to develop comprehensive plans for the management of their city, for the environmental management of cities. And it's been a great success here in Tbilisi. I think we've had 8 projects under the program. We've had a number of projects in the transport sector. As residents in Tbilisi will know, there is an imperative to shift people from private transport to public transport, and helping the metro system to develop to provide a more efficient and better service is our objective here, which will bring benefits in terms of reducing pollution and improving the quality of life here in the city.
During the conversation with the president of EBRD, Madam President also mentioned about the role model of Tbilisi in regards of Green City.
Exactly, and
program.
Tbilisi was the first city to join this flagship program of the EBRD, and it's been extremely successful, as I say. Nearly 8 to 10 projects that we've done, a number in the transport sector, and the experience we have had working here in Tbilisi has been extremely helpful in terms of rolling out the project in other countries of operation.
Mr. Baum, did you get all the necessary feedbacks, information, statistics and analysis from your Georgian counterparts? I'm talking about governmental officials in regards of the information you requested and mentioned that you want to understand more how Georgian economy is moving forward.
So exactly, and to come back to your earlier question, so one of the things today was signing this project, but more generally, meetings with the government, very productive and intense discussions with the government, understanding the current economic situation, the current developments in the country. Clearly, the economic situation here, the macroeconomic situation is I think, more positive than people might have expected a year or so ago. But we live in a world of great uncertainty, and the importance of taking advantage of the current situation in order to progress vital reforms in order to be prepared for the future. And our conversation with the government was both about understanding the current economic situation, but also discussing progress with their reform priorities and discussing specific projects where we can continue our collaboration.
I also want to remember my last interview with EBRD and Madame René Basson in regards of Investment Council operating in Georgia, which is also sort of role model. She was telling me that it's maybe the best how Investment Council is working here. My question to you is the following. Tell me about your meetings with the private sector and how did it go?
So the Investor Council here in Georgia is very successful. We think that it's a very successful forum for the private sector to share its views with the government. We have been involved with the Investor Council for a number of years since its creation in 2015, and it's an extremely useful forum for businesses, for the private sector, to put forward their ideas, their suggestions in terms of where improvements can be made to the regulatory framework, to legislation. And it's been a successful model in terms of actually delivering concrete reforms which have actually led to tangible investment. And it's a model, as you hinted, it's a model that we have also been able to roll out in other countries, but we've been particularly pleased with the progress made with the Investor Council here in Georgia.
Could you be more specific in regards of EBRD projects in Georgia? I would love to share with our viewers and followers about the ongoing projects and about plans or strategic focus which our strategic partner as EBRD might have in the following years and in the current year as well.
Absolutely, and the EBRD has been a long-standing partner here in Georgia. We've been active in this country for 30 years. Cumulatively, over those 30 years, we've invested 5 billion euros in getting close now to 300 projects. Our focus has been primarily on the private sector. 80% of our investments have been in the private sector. We support small and medium enterprises through working with partner financial institutions, working with local banks, giving them credit lines which they can on-lend to SMEs. We work with the banking sector. We've worked with cities, as we were just discussing, and we've also been active in infrastructure investments. So infrastructure investments in roads, a project that we completed recently with the railway company in terms of digitalization of the railway company. So that combination of primarily focusing on the private sector, but also working with the government. And one of the unique things about the EBRD is our ability to combine investments with policy dialogue, policy advice, and technical assistance. So playing our part in terms of helping to contribute to the modernization of the Georgian economy.
While mentioning infrastructure projects, and some ongoing or future involvement of EBRD in Georgia, let's talk about the prospects of the Middle Corridor, which is becoming more actual after disaster happening last approximately 1 year. I'm talking about war happening in Ukraine. The role of Georgia and the bank in the development of this transitional transport route. We're discussing some possibilities here, but at the same time, due to some consequences, there are some talks and discussions, let me say so, that Georgia should prepare more aggressively to be as an active person, as an active government, as an active country itself, I mean, coordinating this Middle Corridor.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting question and an interesting issue. And let me first of all say because you mentioned it, a word on Ukraine. I mean, the EBRD was very clear in its condemnation of Russian aggression, and we've been very active over the last year supporting Ukraine and continuing to invest in Ukraine, continuing to support the economy. But coming back to your question, clearly the Russian aggression has had very significant consequences for a number of other countries, and consequences in terms of international trade, international connections. And there is always a clear advantage in terms of countries developing new trading links, new corridors, new routes for trade, particularly so because of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. Georgia, because of its position, its geographical position, has enormous potential to play a role in the Middle Corridor connecting Central Asia to Europe. And in order to do that, the requirement to develop infrastructure, whether it be road infrastructure, railway infrastructure, ports, these are all ideas where we are very willing to engage and to discuss with the government potential options and to look in detail at potential for further cooperation.
While you mentioned the ongoing war in Ukraine, how has the war affected projections of the economic growth? And let us discuss not only Georgia, but Caucasus region itself while you're visiting both three countries, I mean Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia itself.
It's a very interesting question, and clearly the Russian aggression in Ukraine has had significant implications for the region, and many of them in different dimensions, and in some senses the economies in the region are perhaps doing better than might have been expected because of the inflows from Russia, because of money that's come from Russia, citizens leaving Russia and relocating and establishing businesses in Georgia. But I think one of the issues, if we think more broadly about this question, has been the need for countries to reduce their reliance on Russia and on Russian energy because of the concerns around that and the insecurity of supply if you rely on Russia for your energy supplies, which brings us on to a parallel topic, but one issue I've been very keen to explore with the government here today is the potential for Georgia to develop as a renewables, to significantly develop its renewables potential. It already has significant hydro electricity here.
You mean that it was one of the key topics?
It's one of the very important topics. It's a very key priority for the bank, helping countries with the energy transition. And given the current circumstances with the war in Ukraine, the case for countries to develop into renewable energy, to accelerate the transition into renewable energy, is even stronger than before. Obviously the climate case, but also the economic case and the energy security case. So it makes sense for a country to develop renewable energy in order to produce cleaner, cheaper, and more secure energy.
If I will follow your content and at the same time key priorities, as you mentioned, can we consider that EBRD might consider potential involvement in Black Sea submarine electricity cable project? I'm more than sure that you are very much aware of this project.
I'm very much aware with this project and have been discussing it with various partners today and with the government. And it's certainly a project where we would like to look at the details and would certainly consider involvement. It's a very ambitious project and technically complex project. So there would need to be a lot of work to be done in terms of looking at the feasibility, looking at the technical details of the project. But the principle of Georgia thinking about how it can expand its own domestic electricity production and become a net exporter of electricity is a principle that we very much support and would be very keen to investigate.
Thank you so much for your time and for being with us. It was very interesting and information. So thank you so much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much for having me today. Thank you.
Why BMG? Why do such influential people like Mark Baumann and many others who had visited BMG over these years trust our media outlet? Well, we have a very distinct answer to this question, and I'm very glad and proud to share that answer with you right now.
Business Media Georgia is the leading Georgian business media network. BMG TV is the first 24-hour TV channel in the Caucasus focused on business and economics, while news media agency BM.G, offering readers news stories, blogs, interviews and analysis, is one of the largest in Georgia. According to Google Analytics, the number of readers of BM.G's website in 2022 was 7.24 million, which is 41% more than the previous year. These 7.24 million readers, also known as users, made 16.8 million sessions on the website, equaling 24% more than the previous year.
The 40% increase in business that BMG achieved in 2022 indicates significant development in its Georgian language and especially English language direction. This growth represents the trust that comes from the business community and customers, and most importantly, the trust is in the team that adheres to this rule and takes care of the biggest gainer, which is trust. When the business, and in this case, one of the most challenging businesses, that is the media, is based on trust, the agency will grow. Proof of this is another achievement and direction of 2022, BMG Television. BMG has independent broadcasting, the first in Georgia and the region. We will grow regionally in 2023 with a single goal, to be proud of the growth in 1 year as we are today.
In December of the last year, the number of readers of BM.G reached 806,000, which is a 30% increase year on year. Compared to the previous month, however, the increase is 39.6%. BM.G's success, of course, is determined by the people behind it. Content makers, journalists, social media managers and editors. These people work tirelessly 7 days a week to provide the public with reliable, verified and trustworthy information.
Let me be honest, in a country as small as Georgia, providing the audience with trustworthy, sourced and fascinating information about business and economics is not an easy task. That's why our phenomenal results, namely the 7 million readers we have accumulated, must be attributed to our team, journalists and editors creating content for BM.G. For me, editor-in-chief of BM.G, this result is a milestone, but I'm sure the number of readers will increase even more in the years to come. Our rating, which is rising yearly, is a sign of trust on behalf of our readers, but at the same time, an enormous responsibility for us, the people behind BM.G.
Media agency BM.G informs the readers not only about the local economy, business and finance news, but provides an overview of global news and tendencies through multimedia resources, such as news articles, op-eds, live coverage and blogs. BM.G operates in 2 languages, Georgian and English, with the latter attracting interested readers from all over the world.
Given that we have an English language editorial office, news media agency BM.G operates in 2 languages. We could freely say that for people interested in English language news coverage, BM.G is a go-to media resource. I'm thrilled that our foreign partners, such as international financial institutions and embassies, receive news coverage through BM.G. With the help of our agency, the voice of the Georgian businesses is heard clearly and loudly in English too.
As the data indicated, 2022 was a very successful year for BMG. Yet the same could not be said about a world ravaged by high inflation and tightened monetary policy. With the help of the people behind Business Media Georgia, the readers of BMG and the viewers of BMG TV are well aware of all global economic and political trends, which we cover as a part of our daily operations.
According to Google Analytics, 59.8% of BM.G's readers landed on the site via a link from a social media platform, 25.2% of visits were direct visits, and 14.8% of visits were other visits. During the period, 56% of BM.G readers were women and 44% were men. In terms of age, 2 age categories are dominant. People in the 25 to 34 years and 35 to 44 years categories comprise 55% of the total readers, with 28% and 27% respectively. BM.G's year-by-year increasing rating and deepening trust on the part of the readers is a special responsibility for everyone at Business Media Georgia. Every single member of the team knows that such trust requires caution. Therefore, BM.G strives to be the most trusted and respected business media outlet in Georgia.
What was new in business? Here's our weekly business news and analysis from the checkpoints.
Bidzina Gonashvili, the head of meat product producer company Tserti, says that due to raw material price increase, the cost of products has already increased and the growth is still expected. Bidzina Gonashvili says that the price of meat in the local market increased by 30% annually, and in the case of milk, the growth reached even 40%. Speaking about the expectations for 2023, Gonashvili says that in January the price of milk will increase further, while meat price will likely remain at the current level. Raw materials have become more expensive for us by 20%. Supposedly it won't be reflected in product price directly, but I think there will be at least a 50% price increase. This process is also difficult for us. The increase in price reduces consumption, and no one benefits from this. Also, we have no other solution, Gonashvili said. One of the largest real estate projects is planned to be implemented on Hero Square in Tbilisi city center. The company Kostava 69, a member of Carto Group, has already submitted a project to Tbilisi Urban Service, which plans to set up a multifunctional complex on the territory of the silk factory. According to the architectural drawings, the project consists of 2 skyscrapers, the height of which is defined as a maximum of 65 floors. If the architectural project is approved, it will be the tallest building in the city after the TV tower. According to the project, the multifunctional complex will include 150,000 square meters. A part of the historical building of silk factory will be preserved. The project does not include Laguna Vere swimming pool, which is also owned by Bidzina Ivanishvili's business group. Temur Chkhonia is planning to build a new enterprise for mineral water teas. As the businessman told BMG, the water plant will be built in Atakhtari near the plant of Coca-Cola bottler Georgia. According to the businessman, the company already bought the necessary land area. The sales of mineral water teas increased more than we expected, so we decided to build a new factory. The demand for our products is growing not only in the local market but also from the countries where we export the products, I mean Azerbaijan. Also, last year we exported a small amount of water teas to Kazakhstan, and we will sell even more this year. By the way, we will start exporting tea and juices to Kazakhstan from March, the businessman said. As for the investment, Chkhonia does not specify the amount of money needed for the construction of a new water plant, but says that in 2023 Coca-Cola bottlers Georgia plans to invest 70 million GLR. Hotel Costa, which renovated the restaurant space and increased the number of rooms, will be fully operational from the middle of February. Tamar Baghdavadze, the founder of the hotel, told TV program Business Morning. Owners of the hotel invested 1.5 million GLR in the renovation project and plan to open it in November last year. However, as Tamar Tabagari says, due to the delay in the renovation works, the renovated restaurant will be operational from February this year, and a total of 70 people will be employed in the hotel. The number of rooms increased to 72. Accordingly, the hotel can host 140 guests per month. Hotel Costa is expecting big bookings from March. Artisan bakery Gunda plans to develop its business outside Georgia. Gunda plans to open its first branch in New York late in 2023. Gunda aims to popularize khachapuri in the international market. One of the founders of Gunda, Levan Kukiashvili, spoke about the plans for the development of khachapuri chain and noted that the project will be implemented in cooperation with a Georgian partner living in America. We are planning to open Gunda branch in New York by the end of the year. We are currently looking for a place to open a facility in Manhattan or a similar area. We saw several locations. Gunda has 2 partners, Nana Dolidze and Inga Guernadze. Inga has been living in the USA for many years, and we are working with them on the opening of the facility, said Levan Kukiashvili. Tevino, a tourist facility located in Khashmi village, Sagarejo district, is planning to develop the infrastructure and arrange a pool in the hotel area this year. Speaking to BMG, the founder of the company, Nika Zautashvili, says that they will invest a total of 130,000 GLR for business development. The infrastructure of the pool will be arranged on 400 square meters, and the length of the pool will be 10 meters, while the width will be 5 meters. Demand for the pool from our guests has been high, so we have started arranging the pool, and we will be able to offer it to the guests by May, says Nika Zautashvili. The tourist facility in Tevino includes a boutique-type 5-room hotel and developed infrastructure, a conference space and a restaurant. Nika Zautashvili, the founder of the company, says that in 2022 the tourist direction of Tevino has increased by 130%. The cost of staying in a 2-person room at the Tevino hotel for one night, including breakfast, totals to 160 GLR. Zala restaurant and cellar will open in Old Batumi in late spring 2023. The total investment volume of the facility will be 1 million gelari. The founder of the restaurant, Zuka Bakradze, explained that the concept and the menu of Batumi restaurant will be similar to Tbilisi. The facility will be designed for all 4 seasons and we make focus on local customers. We will employ over 30 local citizens and train them to provide quality service. Our expectations are quite positive, noted Sura Bakradze. Zala restaurant and cellar based on Georgian investment will be opened in New York, especially in Manhattan, in about 3 years. $3 million USD will be invested in the construction of the facility and its initial development.
And that's all for today. We will meet on Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. But before that, follow us on Forbes.g and BM.g. See you soon.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.